Hey everybody, welcome to Leon's Chainsaw Parts and Repair. It's been a little while since I posted a repair tip that's earth-shattering. Well, hell, maybe I've never posted one that's earth-shattering, but I was working on a bunch of carburetors for Bob today, and there were HDCs for Super 2s. But that HDC was also used by the Super EZ, and some of them made their way into the 150s as well. So there's a common area that can be overlooked or not taken care of. Now this carburetor is pretty tore apart because it was a parts one. I don't honestly remember why I started using it for parts, other than maybe because I needed to. Doesn't matter. The K10 HDC kits, I don't have one laying close by or I'd grab it, has just about everything but the check valve. I guess I'll zoom in real quick here for grins. So the check valve is buried under this screen and retainer ring. Now what this really does, we'll talk about in a minute. But to get this ring out and screen out, you've got to get a very sharp instrument, get under this ring, trying not to poke a hole in the screen, pop that out, and then the screen will come out. Then you can view your check valve, which is just a disc that sits under here. The disc itself is not quite as big around as this brass housing here, but close. And all that disc is a piece of diaphragm material. That's all it is. So what the hell does it do? Well, it's two things. Number one, that is your main nozzle. So a lot of Zamas have an unscrew that the nozzle will unthread out of here. A lot of the other Walbros that I've come across, it presses in and out, or you can drive it in or out into the carburetor bore, and it basically is set up with a turret style. It's got a ring groove around the outer edge that allows fuel to flow, so you don't have to clock the thing. But on this, it's a main nozzle and it's a check valve. Okay, so the main nozzle is pretty self-explanatory. When you're running at full throttle or over half throttle, most of your fuel is going to be flowing through here into the engine. So why the heck do you need a check valve? Well, even though you've got a reed valve, so if this is mounted on the engine, you're going to have a reed valve down here that is supposed to close when the crankcase pressure starts to push against it. Now that's supposed to prevent any sort of feed that comes back up into the carburetor, but there's always going to be a little bit. So this check valve is a secondary protection, so that as the vacuum of the engine is trying to draw fuel down, if you have a situation where you do have a little pressure, once it's pulled the charge of fuel into the crankcase, and I may think it would be coming back on the exhaust stroke, coming back, should close that reed valve. But if it hasn't 100%, or if your engine's turning at the right speed where that timing just isn't quite right, you can get a pulse of pressure back up through here, and that is going to interrupt the flow of fuel. So the idea is when the pressure hits into the throttle bore right here, it's going to push that little disc up against the seat, and that bronze piece, brass, whatever the hell it is, on the back side is set up to just catch that little disc and no leakage goes by. So that'll prevent a pulse from getting in the carburetor and basically pushing the fuel out of the carburetor and back into the tank. Now you can see why that would be a bad thing. So like I say, the K10 HDC kits that are out there include that snap ring, they include that screen, they don't include the check valve itself or this body. You've got to get a separate kit. Now they are still available from Walbro, but they're getting harder to get, and they're quite expensive. They're, you know, over 10 bucks a whammy for that little stupid thing right there. So where the problem lies is the only way you can check this visually is to pop that ring, probably destroy that screen, and then you can sit there and you can look at it. And if it's black, pretty good odds it's never been replaced. That doesn't mean it's bad. If you're going to go that route, you take your not so sharp, you know, slightly blunted, spin that disc around a little bit. If it stays in its shape, it's probably okay. If it wrinkles at all, it's garbage. It is absolute garbage, and you're going to have to get it out of there. Which means you're going to pop that bronze piece out and drive the, you know, you'll put your new check valve diaphragm piece in there first, and then you'll seat this piece that's pre-assembled in there. Well, what if you don't want to go to all that trouble? What if you're like, well, heck, I've got a carburetor here. It might be good, but I don't want to mess something up. I've got a real stupid, untechnical way of doing it. Take a piece of hose, 1/8 inch inside diameter, 1/4 inch outside, works great. And what you're going to do is you're going to hold it right down. I'll get my finger out of the way so that you guys can see sort of what I'm doing. Just put the hose right down, right over that check valve, and then as you're holding it there, the first thing you're going to do is blow through. Now try to suck back through it. Can't hear anything, can you? But when you blow, so check valve is good in this carburetor. If it wasn't any good, if it was wrinkling or it was soft and mushy, you would be able to, just like you were trying to drink a milkshake, you'd be trying to suck that piece of garbage back in there, and air would be leaking by it. Now, I can't say that's going to be 100% effective every single time to diagnose it, but it ought to be awful damn close. So, I would say 1 out of maybe 25 of these carbs, 1 out of every 25 that I work on, I will get an issue of where the high speed performance is just horrible, it's inconsistent, it's unreliable. Usually that is the check valve. Usually. But if you want to check it, no pun intended, before you order an expensive valve kit, a little piece of hose that doesn't cost you hardly anything will get the job done for you. So hopefully that'll help you guys out a bit.